So a question came in if INFPs have phone call anxiety. Yes. Yes, we do. At least I can speak personally from my experience. I do not like phone calls. Phone calls for me are a social event. If I know I have to call someone and it's not someone I immediately like talking to, even if it's someone like my cousin who I'm very close with, I get very anxious. It's my mom. The only person I don't feel that way with is my daddy. We are so close. Like, my dad and I have such a great relationship. Like, it's completely different with him. And I also know that he's not going to stay on the phone with me forever. And I also enjoy talking with my dad. He's an ESFP, and it's always been us. Even when I was living in my country, my mom had moved to the States. She sent me back down when I was 2. I stayed with my dad. She wasn't in my life for like 8 years. I only used to go up and visit her. My mom's an INFJ. We have a rocky relationship. I did mention before in other videos that she's very judgment. Like, I don't know. If you know INFJs, now imagine an abused and sort of abusive, narcissistic, dysfunctional INFJ. They're not fun to be around. They're always negative, always judgmental, very fake. Like, it's just a very odd thing. I'll talk about that later. I'm not saying all INFJs are like that. Of course, a lot of it has to do with how she was raised, but she's a covert narcissist. And I discovered that later on, and it was very rocky. Needless to say, our relationship is not the same. It never was good, but from her end, she thought it was perfect, and then I opened up to her. After she and my dad split, she had treated my dad very badly. So to me, because my dad is my dad and because he's such a wonderful, wonderful person, I feel very protective over him. As horrible as it sounds, I'm getting somewhere with this. As horrible as it sounds, I would drop everything if my dad was at the hospital, even if it's something minor, to go and see him. My mom was at the hospital recently, and it was something minor, something she did, but I made excuses not to go. And that says a lot. And if an INFP is making excuses to not want to see you, that means that you're not that close. So what the difference, I just painted the difference there, that when my dad calls, I'm eager to speak to him. Oh, it's my dad. My mom calls, oh, Jesus Christ. That's just how I feel. Other phone calls, like if it's my friends, I'm not a frenzy type of person. I'm very friendly. People like being friends with me, and they get this misconception that we're totally best friends equally. Like, yes, would I help them if they really needed help? Of course. Do I want to spend every waking moment with you because we're best friends? No. I'm not a best friend type of deal. I think the only time I have been best friends and been eager to actually play with people, well, not eager, but okay to tolerate other people's presence, is when we like the same things. If we like video games. But then after that, I'm like, I don't want to see you. When I was younger, like in 7, 6, I had a best friend, and we lived in the same complex, and I was okay playing by myself. I don't need friends. Literally, I do not need people to be around me. However, when my best friend Andre would come around, we would play together, and I was okay tolerating him. Now, I don't know what his personality type is because we only ever played outside, and we only ever, I think he's an N. I think he's also an introvert. Come to think of it, knowing what I know about Andre, looking back, I think he was also an INFP. We were both very imaginative. We were both introverts. We both were very mindful of each other. And we both liked to always do new things. So looking back at it now, I think that the reason why Andre and I got along so well is because we were both INFPs. And I was always happy to see him. He didn't need to be around me. I didn't need to be around him. And if we haven't seen each other for a while, we just picked up where we left off. And we would always, it wasn't like I was always setting up the stage of, okay, pretend this happens. I always had to do that with other people, where I'm the imaginative one and they don't know how to really imagine as well, so they would let me set up the stage for the toys and everything. With Andre, we could role play off of each other like nothing. Like, it was so wonderful playing with him. It's so easy because he would make his own characters' backstories, I would make the backstories, and then we would just flawlessly work like this imagination machine. So I strongly believe that Andre was an INFP as well. So in that situation, when INFPs are around each other, we're totally fine. We're like cats. We like being alone, but there are community places where cats will all meet up and socialize. Then they go about their business and leave each other alone. That's what makes it easy. But with other people, I think with other personality types, especially ones that are more garrulous and they're extroverts, they want to stay on the phone with you forever. If it's another INFP, you're like, okay, I'm tired. You can actually tell the INFPs, okay, I'm all introverted out. I don't want to talk anymore. They're like, all right, see you later. And they'll probably be happy that you ended the conversation. Or they'll tell you first. With other people, you'll tell them, and one of the anxiety-inducing situations for me is when I say goodbye to someone and they keep me on the phone longer. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, I just said goodbye to you. Yeah. One more thing. Okay, so, remember blah, 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 blah. I'm like, yeah. All right. Yeah, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, holy shit, dude. Like, I'm trying to get out. This is why I don't speak to people. Because when I talk to you, and that's one of the reasons why I like talking to my dad. I can tell my dad, hey, daddy, I'm tired. I'm going to go. I'm like, all right, or he'll have to go because he does stuff. And he will respect that at least. Funny enough, he respects that with phone calls, but he never really respected it when we were together, like in the same physical space. It was very annoying. But if it's on the phone, like, he likes to live in the moment and be doing things. So the phone calls are actually easier for us. And we can get off the phone like, all right, love you, daddy. Bye, daddy. And he'll go about his way. With other people, they just don't get that. And that's what makes it frustrating. That's where some of the anxiety comes from. Some of the anxiety is where you're going to be stuck on a phone call and you can't get off. And knowing you have to make this phone call. Like when my mom was like, call me. I'm like, when I moved out, I'm like, I hope she doesn't expect me to call her every single day. And because we didn't have that great of a relationship from my side, I felt panicky with her, because also the other thing that makes it hard for me is that I have to be fake. I'm not comfortable with her. She thinks everything's totally fine, but she scared me for most of my life. So talking with her and putting on this facade of being happy to hear from her and acting like I miss her was very taxing on my emotions. So knowing I had to get myself and hype myself up like, oh, I gotta talk to my mom. I gotta pretend I'm happy. I gotta do that. Like, that was just, and I did admit all of that to her when it finally came down to it, because when my dad and mom separated, she was very upset because I knew about stuff from my dad's end, and I kind of lied to her about it. And she was like, he didn't tell you he left me. And then I admitted to her, mom, I lied. I just didn't want to get in the middle of it. And she's like, I thought we were close. I'm like, we're not as close as you think we are. And she's like, what do you mean? I'm like, mom, I already talked to you about this. Every time I talk to you about it, you forget. And that's the thing with narcissists. They don't take accountability. And I don't know if it's just her mental situation, but when I will cry and have an hour-long conversation and she'll cry and apologize about the abusive things she did to me and how bad of a mother she was, she'll forget the next day, or she'll turn it around on me and make it look as though I'm the evil person who's possessed or something. Very hurtful shit. I mean, and then so she acts all surprised once again when she's like, what do you mean? And I'm like, we talk, okay? And she's like, tell me everything. And I told her everything. I told her about what she did to my dad, what she did to me, and she doesn't remember any of those things. From her point of view, it's like, no, I am the one who was hurt because you guys didn't do this. And I'm like, but you, okay, whatever. So that, not only was that a situation we couldn't heal moving forward, because to heal moving forward, both people have to come in and say, hey, I did this. Hey, mom, I know. I'm sorry. I didn't listen to you all the time. The counters weren't always 100% clean. There were spots on them. I forgot to take out the garbage most days. I am so sorry. I did that. She didn't apologize for physically abusing me, verbally abusing me, manipulating me. I mean, like, there were so many things. And it's not all her fault, because her mother did those same things to her. Even worse. But then at the end of it, if the other person goes behind your back to the rest of the family, lies on you and says, well, the reason why I did this is because this person did this, you confront them about it, and then they get all doe-eyed like they didn't expect it to come back to you for the other family members to tell me what she said. And then she's like, well, that's how it felt. And I'm like, so you lied on me, but you didn't tell the person you lied on me on that was just how you felt. You said it as though it was fact. And now that you're caught, now you're like, well, that's how it made me feel. No. So putting all of that background there with my INFJ mother, that's one of the main reasons where I'm like, I don't want to talk to her. Like, with INFPs, we will avoid you. If there's something about you that we don't like, we will work harder to avoid you. If you're a friend, but or you're an associate, we'll talk to you once in a while and be happy that we talk to you once in a while. If we make the move to call you once in a while, then we really like you. If we don't talk to you at all, but when you call us, we answer, we're like, hey, what's going on? And then we don't talk to you for a while, it's either because you kept us too long on the phone, or because we don't have that much in common for us to really push a friendship with you. We're like cats. Just count it as, hey, let me leave this person alone. And if they don't reach out to me, they really don't care about me that much. It's just the truth. I'll reach out to my best friend from my childhood, my other best friend from my childhood. She's a girl. And we won't talk to each other for years. And then we'll pick up where we left off, just like I do with Andre. She's more extroverted. She actually needs friends, but she acts very introverted sometimes too, so I'm not really sure. Maybe she's a slight mixture of both. slightly more introverted because she also had a rough upbringing, and so she's a little bit low self-esteem, but she's an S, and I think she's a P. She's definitely an S and a P, but she also has like bipolar issues. But we'll talk to each other after many years and just pick up where we left off, the last conversation that we had. My other friends, or people who think that we're more best friends than we are, will call me. You don't call me, you don't do this. And that's the quickest way for us to be like, okay, you know, now I won't call you, never again, because you could call too. You don't call me and scold me for not calling you. I'm not your child. The other thing that makes it anxiety inducing is when somebody calls you all the time. That is the quickest way to chase an INFP away. If the INFP is not returning calls back and you're always the one calling and they're always dodging you and you can never reach them, they don't want to talk to you. I swear to goodness, I had this friend that I helped her in school, and she acts introverted, but she's way more extroverted than I am. And she just latched on to me. And I hate when people do that. It's annoying. And she would just call me all the time. But the reason why I stopped talking to her, I didn't want to talk to her, is because when she would call me, and then she would sit on the phone quiet and expect me to speak. And I'm there talking most of the time, entertaining her. Why? What? We're supposed to be having a conversation. And then later on, she had a baby with some guy that was married, and then she was like, oh, do you want to come see my baby? No, I didn't say that to her, but I'm like, he's cute. We're not friends like that. And I helped her, I gave her some money, and then she started calling me and asking me for things. Oh, could you help me with this? Could you help me with that? It was not a give and take relationship. It was just you're here for my entertainment. And I realized I was being used, and when an INFP feels like they're being taken advantage of, especially if you're not my romantic partner, they're gonna run from you like the plague. She calls my dad, she called my mom asking for me, and I have to be telling them, don't tell them I'm not here. So they're like, why don't you just talk to her? And I'm like, I tried. Like, I give her help, and then she just, it's not a friendship if she's always asking me for things. I don't like that. And I wish I was like the INTJ, where I could just be like, bitch, stop calling me. There's a reason why I'm not answering your calls, and why I changed my number. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to be friends with you. That should be clear. That's clear to me. If people do that to me, why isn't it clear to you? But we don't like hurting people's feelings. So the easiest thing for us to do is to avoid, because we don't like confrontation. So we avoid, and hoping that us avoiding and ignoring you is giving you the huge hint that we want you to leave us alone. If a cat is running away from you, it doesn't want to be petted. That should be common knowledge, but for some people, they just don't get it. So you end up changing your number and moving rather than confronting the person. But that's another anxiety thing. I know I come off as bitchy, but to an INFP, if you're with them in person, they'll never say this stuff. I'm saying this stuff now because this channel, a lot of people watch for this type of content, and they want to know how we think. This is what the inner monologue is like with an INFP. We'll never say it to someone because we still care about their feelings, but inside we're screaming, leave me the fuck alone. Like, we really want to say that to people, but we don't want to hurt them, so we just leave. So I hope that answers the question. That's why we avoid phone calls, and when we do avoid phone calls, that's why we're doing it. Trust me, if you call an INFP 6 times, they got your call. If they don't answer you back, they don't want to talk to you. Does it mean they don't like you? No, they just don't want to talk to you. Sometimes it's not that deep. Sometimes it's not even like we hate someone or we don't like them. We just don't want to be around you or talk to you. It's really that simple. It doesn't have to be a deeper meaning like, we hate you, you did something horrible to us. Just leave us alone. Sometimes it is that, but sometimes we just don't want to be around you. Like that girl in the other video that I made, the girl who had a crush on me, and she's cute, but I'm married, and you know I'm married, and you were pushing that boundary knowing I was married with my husband in the house, and then trying to give me your number and like sleaze your way in. Like, that's really crappy. And she's nice, I don't not like her, but I also don't want to put myself in a situation where my husband's uncomfortable and where I'm entertaining something that could be hurtful to my relationship. So I'm like, you know what, it's not a good idea to be friends with someone who obviously has a crush on me. Like, I didn't realize it right off the bat, but then I'm like, wait a minute. Oh, the constant complimenting on my physique and certain things. Like, after you're experienced enough, you realize, oh, I know what it's like when girls are hitting on me, and I've been hit on by girls and guys, so I know what that's like. I might not catch it right off the bat, but in the middle, like, I'm learning to pick up on it right now. Like, I'm like, oh, now I kind of get it, because I've been through it enough where I recognize it. So I avoid that person. And she got the message because I didn't call her back. She texted me, I didn't write her back, and she left me alone, respectfully. And I thank her for that. I was so worried. I didn't order from that place for a long time. And then when we did order from it, I sent my husband down. So he's like, okay, I'll just tell her, yeah, she's busy. And I'm like, no, don't tell her that because she's going to think that I'm blowing her off because I still don't want to hurt her feelings. Like, oh my God, just talking about it now is making me stressed out. Like, I don't even want to think about it. But yeah, that's our inner monologue. That's what we go through. Any other INFPs in the chat, you know exactly where I'm coming from. So yeah, that would be the biggest thing. If someone is asking, how do I reach out to them? How do I make them talk to me? You can't make an INFP talk to you. The more you try to do that is the further you push them away. If you want an INFP to come to you and you express interest once, leave them alone after that. Find something that they like and make sure that it's something that you like as well. Don't pretend to like it because we like it, because we'll see through that bullshit. And then if you do actually legitimately like it, like video games or art or something, share that with us. But another thing you could do to take the edge off is when you're having a conversation, time yourself. It sounds stupid. Time yourself because you can overload us very easily. Show us art, play video games, and just be like, okay, I gotta go now. And then remove yourself without us having to make the excuse to do it, because that's very stressful for us. And when you do that, and if we reach out to you, then we like you, if that makes sense. All right, I hope that helped.